What's up, all you cool cats and shop rats? Welcome back to Rule Hard Garage. This week we are going to talk about my DIY skate park. I've had a lot of people on Instagram and on Facebook request that I do some sort of tutorial about how I built the ramps. I'm not great at doing tutorials, so I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do is I will go through all the different ramps, show you kind of what they are, how I use them, talk about how I built them a little bit. It's finally cool enough that we can actually skate outside. It's been high 90s and it's really sucked because the second you go outside you're just pouring sweat. It's so hot, it's so hard to skate when it's hot like that. So as far as why I built this stuff, why I built a DIY skate park, well, there's no skate park in my town. The closest one is about 30 minutes away. There's actually three skate parks within like half an hour of my house, which I'm very fortunate for. But being a dad, being a husband, having a life, other than skateboarding, it's hard for me to dedicate hours of time after work every single day to go skateboarding. But it's something that I enjoy and I want to get to it and skate every day after work. So having this stuff in my driveway is really convenient that I can set up after work if it's nice outside and I can go skate outside. Even if it's not nice outside, I can set up a lot of this stuff in my garage, which I found, and have little bitty sessions in my garage and just keep fresh on the board, So that is the primary reason that I built all this stuff. Also, it's just a dream from when I was a kid. As a kid, I didn't have access to power tools or the materials, the skills, the knowledge to make all this stuff. So now it's like I have this power, I have these skills, I just feel like I have to put it to use. Also, I'm super proud of Miley because she finally went down the ramp all by herself, which is one thing that she's been struggling with since she started skating. She's not really felt comfortable at the skate park going up and down the ramps, which I completely understand. When I was a kid that was new to skating, it's really intimidating going to the park and there's all these older people who are way better than you, and it feels weird going out there and struggling. And it takes some time for you to get used to the fact that skating is very independent and no one really cares whether you're good or you're not good. People really want to see you progress in skateboarding. So I understand that, so I wanted to build something in the driveway that she could go out and she could try on, and literally the first try, she went down hanging on to me and she barely had to hang on. So I made her get up there and try it by herself, and boom, she did it perfectly all by herself. So she's a natural at skating. What can I say? If you guys remember back, the very first thing that I built was the little slappy rail. Now I've yet to actually successfully get a good slappy grind on it. I have done some slappy nose slides, slappy board slides, stuff like that, but slappy grind is what I really want to get on that rail, but I have such a hard time locking in on it, and it used to slide around a bunch. I put some rubber pads under it, so that's probably not going to happen anymore. I think I've got that taken care of. That ramp, I just totally wung it. I had no idea what I was going to build. Everything on that is totally reclaimed or repurposed. That top rail is actually a 4-inch tube from a radiant heater. You might see tube heaters if you go into like workshops and stuff like that. That's what I do at work. I am a heating and cooling guy, so when you rip those out, I end up with a whole crap load of those pieces of tubing. The top rail is actually a 4-inch tube, which makes it a little bit hard to lock into, but it's actually fun skating that. So it's a little bit more challenging. I like that though. I like challenging. It gives it something that's a little bit unique. It's not something that everybody has. So I just used a section of that tubing. I cut the sides at like little 45-degree angles, and then cut three little blocks that go in between, two at the end, one in the middle, and they all just kind of made up together, and it kind of makes this perfect little 45 pyramid with like a nice little round top on it. As far as securing it down, I just drilled like holes through the top that are big enough that I could fit my drill bit through and the screw through. And then on the bottom side, drilled holes that are just big enough that the screw would fit through, but the head would catch it so I could secure everything down. The next thing that I built was, again, from all repurposed, reclaimed things. I used no new wood with this. The tubing that I used are all things that I just have in my shop from building motorcycles. It's just 1-inch, 1/8-inch wall DOM tubing, which is good for some framework. It's good for handlebars and all sorts of stuff like that. And it also makes a very good grind coping. So what I actually did on that box is it's 2x6s tall. The plywood on top is a little bit thinner than what you would typically use. It's only like 3/8 thick plywood. But I've got a lot of supports across it, so I've not had a problem with it. But if it does bust or break, it's something that I can always pull up and put a little bit thicker down. Now I did leave a little bit of a gap on the end where I put the coping, because I wanted that coping to not stick up a whole crap load. You know, so what you have is you've got the 3/8 inch plywood. That's a 1-inch rail. It is up a little bit, which I wanted, but I didn't want it all the way hanging up, sitting on top. I needed a little pocket for it to sit in. Some of the 2x6s that we had sitting around were actually under 2x6, which is 5.5, but they were actually about, you know, 1/8 of an inch shy. So together, they're about 1/4 inch short. I stacked those two together, and it created a little bit of a pocket that was a little lower on that side, so I could put the rail in. Now, same thing with that rail. As far as securing it down, I just drilled holes in the top that were large enough that I could fit a screw and a bit through. The bottom holes were just large enough that the head of the screw would catch, and I screwed the rail down to the wood. One thing that I did with this box that's a little bit unique that I wanted to do that you don't see a lot is that I wanted one side to have a metal round coping, and I wanted the other side to have an angle iron coping, just because I feel like having the two different surfaces, the two different materials to grind on, gives you different experience with different things. I think it's good to learn and try on different stuff, and it makes you a lot more versatile. Now, that box is 67.5 inches long, it's about 12 inches high, and it's 2 feet wide. Which brings me to the next ramp that I built, which I actually built as a project with Miley. This had a lot more new material. We bought all new plywood, as well as the piece of metal on the bottom that makes a little transition from the plywood to the ground. I use this as a really good opportunity to spend some extra time with my daughter. They're pretty easy to build, and there's a lot with angles and heights and measurements and all this different stuff, so it was a good learning experience for her. But it's just a little bump wedge ramp, and I made it the exact same height and the exact same width as the box. So you can use it a couple different ways on the box. You can roll down it, you can roll up it, you can use it as like a little kicker ramp, you can use it to slappy the side of the grind box, all sorts of different stuff that we found so far, and it's been a blast skating it. Now, the final thing that I had to make for this skate park was an adjustable grind rail. And this is something that I had talked about making, and I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to do it, and I finally just jumped in and made it happen. So obviously, in my shop, building motorcycles and stuff, fabrication is not something that I'm shy to. What I did is I just took a piece of black pipe from work, which again was left over, repurposed and reused that. In the shop, I just had laying around some 1.25" DOM tubing and some 1-inch DOM tubing. Now, the thing about DOM that's different than pipe is DOM is seamless. It literally stands for drawn over mandrel. So you don't have a weld seam on the inside. So it's perfectly round. So these two pieces of material naturally, just the way that they're designed, the way that they come from the factory without any extra work, perfectly slide in and out of each other. Now, this is a feature that was very important on this rail because I wanted it to be adjustable. Any slop that you have in that pipe, you're going to feel it when you're grinding. It's eventually going to wear and wallow out, and it's not going to be good. So a good tight fit is super important. So that's why I used those two pieces of material specifically. The pipe on the top rail, that doesn't really matter. That's just a piece of 1 3/4 gas pipe, literally black gas pipe that we had laying around at work. And then the two pieces of plate on the bottom are just like some 3/16 plate or something like that that I use to weld the 1-inch to that actually makes the base of those rails. Now, those can come off, and I can throw that on the top of the Subi, strap it down, and transport the rail wherever I need to. It also has the added benefit of the fact that it's adjustable from 8.5 inches all the way up to 12.5 inches. So you can make a sloped rail, you can lower it, you can raise it. It's pretty freaking sweet. Now, I do think that I'm going to have to add some sort of like girder or support in it because it seems a little bouncy, and some of my friends told me that over time that it'll get worse. So I don't want it to get so bad that it bends and I ruin the rail. So I need to actually get that taken care of sooner than later. Now, there's one more last piece to this skate park that I really wanted to add, and what it is an air conditioning pad. Being a heating and air conditioning guy, I naturally come across these all the time. Some are made of plastic, but this one is made of solid, pure concrete. It's just something that you can get creative with, which is something that I wanted to add to the park. I really love DIY stuff, and I love street skating, so I wanted some sort of element like that I could add to it. So it's like 2.5 or 3 foot wide pad. It's about 2 inches thick of solid concrete. I imagine that this ledge would be good for making some sort of like grind ledge, almost like a bench. I had it set up on the box a couple weeks ago and I was doing little rock and rolls on it, maybe make a wall ride out of. Now I will admit the thing is heavy as hell. It's got to be at least 100 pounds. So you have to be smart about that. The best way to move this type of stuff, first off, watch your toes. Second off, an extra skateboard or even your skateboard. You can take heavy things like curbs, big pieces of concrete like that, big heavy objects. You can set them on your skateboard, maybe even with a little help from your friend. It makes it a lot easier to move things around and set things up so you can get things in the area and the location that you want them to skate. Again, I'm very fortunate to have all these things at my house. I'm very appreciative of it. I'm appreciative that I've got a wife that supports everything that I do, supports me skateboarding and bringing home and building all of this junk that we keep at our house. That's all that we have for today. Let me know in the comments down below how much you loved this video. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so that you get all the notifications. Until next time, peace!